What's up, everybody? We want to do this video on our experience, how we brought our first home. I saw a lot of videos when we were looking for our first home on YouTube. Learned a lot, watched a lot of people's experiences. So I said to myself, when we first buy a home, we get our first home, we're gonna have to do a video and let everybody know our experience. Also give some advice and tips on some of the things that we went through to kind of give everybody a heads up to help everybody purchase their first home. So this is for people that may be in the process of purchasing their first home, maybe thinking about purchasing a home in the next few years or whatever, next year, this year, whatever. But this is going to be some helpful information. We'll give out some tips and then we'll explain our process along the way. Okay. We just brought our first home. How long? Three months?
Almost 3 months.
Almost 3 months. So we're close to 3 months being in our first home. We're enjoying it so far. The kids are all over, so you'll have kids running in and out. Mm-hmm. It's just a part of the routine. Yeah. But our experience was unique, but it was the basic experience also. So we're gonna explain the experience. And we're gonna go kind of step by step, so bear with us. The first thing that we did personally in our own personal space to get to this point was we got our credit together. It wasn't that we had bad credit, we just really didn't have any credit. We were so used to buying things with cash, we brought our cars cash, we didn't have any student loans or anything like that. We just didn't have any credit card. We didn't have any credit cards.
No credit cards.
So we had like the basic bank account, debit card, things like that, but we didn't have anything that, I didn't think credit was really that useful until I was thinking about buying a home. Mm-hmm. So we started about a year, it could have been more, but we started about a year into the process of getting our credit together, at least just starting, because we basically started from the minimum. And we both got on Credit Karma, which allowed us to check our credit and make sure, see if there was anything there that we needed to get off. I'm going to give a little tip about that soon. And the first thing we got was unsecured credit cards, one of each. And we knew that we'd both be applying for the home, so we knew that we both had to get our credit together.
Secured credit card.
Yeah, secured credit. I keep saying unsecured. We got secured credit cards, so I got the one with our bank, Bank of America, and she got the one with Capital One. She got the one Capital One that through Credit Karma. So Credit Karma, when you sign up for Credit Karma, which is free, they'll give you monitor your credit for you every week. And what they'll do is give you recommendations of credit that can help you build your credit. Right. So a year she got the Capital One. What did you pay?
I got the Capital One. I paid a $40 fee, and I got a secured credit card with $250 limit.
Right, to start. And a lot of the secure credit cards, you'll probably have to pay a fee in the beginning to, because you don't have credit. So you're just trying to build a credit up. But the thing we did with the credit card was, and this is for people that just starting at the bare minimum. So if you're past this point, cool. But what we did, we will use a little bit of the credit card, pay it off every month. Use it, pay it off. That just jumped our score up because we was basically starting from
scratch.
So it jumped our score up, and that was one of the first things that we did. Another thing that we did, and this is very, very, very important. Have you some money. Save you some money. No matter what type of home you trying to buy, what price, always have you some money in the bank. That's one. If you don't learn anything, make sure that you have the money. Don't try to have $500, not even $1,000, because there's so many different costs that you just. I will get into all the costs and things like that, but it's so many different costs, that unexpected costs, a lot of different things. So that was one thing. Another thing we did after building the credit. Also, I went and got a self-lender loan. So check out selflender.com. That's another thing that can help give you another, account on your credit that can help build it up. So we got our credits up to about the 700s at the time we were starting to apply. So what we did, we applied with a local bank. We didn't go with our bank that we've been with for years, but we went with a local bank. But our mind state was to find a house for us,
Yeah.
a good house with pretty much no work at the price range that we would be comfortable with paying every month, which was I think we didn't want to live above our means. So we knew that would increase our chances of getting a home, because a lot of big banks like the Bank of America, the Chase, they will probably won't give you a loan for anything under 100,000 most of the time, 90,000. It'll be very hard. So depending on where you live, it'll be very, very hard to just say, hey, I want a house for 70,000, or you find a house. You may have to come up with the rest or whatever, or find you a credit union or something. So a lot of programs, you may have a program that with a local bank to have some type of program where you can get a house, and you maybe we got our home with no money down. We had got it with no money down, right?
Right.
We didn't have to pay no down payment, zero down payment. Now we had to pay other costs, but we didn't have to pay the down payment. We had the money for the down payment, but we didn't have to pay the down payment at all, because we went through a local bank and we kind of went through that process without going through the other process. You got anything there? Kids.
Well, let me say this. The process was a lot easier than I had originally thought. When I think of buying a house, I automatically thought it was going to be, something difficult, but it was not.
It was nerve-wracking at times.
It was nerve-wracking at times, but it still was not as bad as I had imagined. I thought it was going to be a lot longer process, and it wasn't. It was pretty quick, if you ask me. 3 months from the time that we filled out the application and we were signing our papers to getting our keys.
2 months.
2 months? I thought it was 3.
It was about 2 months.
It was faster than I thought.
The way our process went, we were doing what most people do: looking on Zillow, looking on Realtor,
Right.
looking at houses.
Because that's the fun part.
That's the fun part.
Yeah.
We didn't have a realtor at the time. Our credit was all right at the time, but please don't really get into that unless you just want to kind of see what's out there in your area. But don't get into that, because you might find a house you love and fall in love with it, and you're not pre-approved. You're not pre-approved yet. So not being pre-approved.
And not just not pre-approved, you may not have any money. Your credit score may be a little low. I would suggest, it's fun looking at houses, but I wouldn't suggest getting a realtor until you've at least gotten half of those things.
Half of those processes. And you want to go through a lender and get to a lender and get pre-approved. Not too much pre-qualified, that's cool, but not, get a pre-approval.
Right.
Something that's a pre-approval letter from a lender. That means you're going to give them the basic thing. This is where I work. They may not check all of that. They'll get to that with the underwriters and all that, the loan processor. But get something where you will have a pre-approval letter, and when you go to these open houses or you get a realtor, you will have something a little bit more stern. What I experienced, we saw the house. We was already looking at the housing and all that, but we saw the house. We saw that the local bank, had a program where we were able to get this house
with no money down.
With no money down. So what we basically did was just say, okay, this house is in an area that we already live in.
Right.
We're familiar with this area, so we'll just apply. So we applied with the bank. So we did the private. Loan officer was great. Like, he helped us out, and we got the realtor. And I wouldn't suggest this. I wouldn't suggest having the same realtor, because we didn't have a realtor. So we wanted this house, but the realtor was the realtor of the house. So the realtor.
So the realtor was the realtor for the seller, and would be us, the buyer.
I wouldn't suggest that, and it can work out, but in our situation, because we wanted the house. But what happened was, after we applied for the house, the loan officer contacted the realtor, and they said they had a cash offer for this house.
Right.
So we had to go back to square one, and which means that we had to go back to, we were already pre-approved, but we had to go to the process of looking for a house. So we kind of went out with the realtor and looked at a few houses. Now, we looked at some houses that were good houses that was in our price range, and then we looked at some houses that were bad houses that we couldn't see ourselves in. So we went through the process that everybody goes through.
Right. We looked at some houses that were so nice, but were way out of
our budget. Right.
So we got the full spectrum.
We got all of that, but it ended up coming full circle that the day of closing, the cash buyer backed out. So it kind of led us back to this house where we kind of had to make a decision. Should we go back to get this home? This will be the home for us, or should we keep looking? So we just decided to get this home. Now, after we decided to get this home, we waited a week to make sure that the cash buyer would not come back or something like that. And then that Friday, that was like a Monday or something, but that Friday, we signed the contract. We did the contract. And after the contract part is when it gets in full gear. I've never done that much work in my life of trying to get things done. Now, this is going to be pretty standard. After you sign a contract between you and the seller, there's going to be some contingencies. It just depends on your situation. It could be repairs or whatever. But one of the first things is going to be an inspection. And that inspection is going to come out of your pocket.
Yes, you pay for that.
You pay for that inspection. You're going to have to bring a money order, cash, have an inspector. Now, the best thing to do is Google the inspector, the local inspector, and look at the reviews, whoever the inspector is, and make sure that they are quality and they're a good inspector. The inspector we had was a thorough, good inspector, because when I came up, the day he was inspected, he was already on the roof and working half hours before he was supposed to be. He was completely thorough. He made sure everything was where it's supposed to be. And we've been here 3 months and we haven't had any problems. It's like the roof didn't fall in on us. You know what I'm saying? Anything like that. So and that was about $300. So that's another thing. Expect an inspector to be $300, $500. It may be like mold, it's past, all that's separate. But $300 to $400 depending on where you stay. That's another thing to expect. Another thing to figure out is an appraisal. Now, then the appraisal, they say it's in your favor.
You pay for that.
You pay for that, but you will more likely some people pay it up front or during the process, but we paid for it in the closing.
Okay.
So it was around $400. So that's another thing you got to just add that up. And another thing, the deposit, or what they call the
earnest check.
Earnest check.
Earnest deposit.
I forgot. Earnest deposit is another thing. So that depends on the house you buy, how much the seller wants on the earnest deposit.
Whatever he's asking for.
Yup. You may have to write a check, or more like a money order, and give it to your realtor. So the earnest deposit, the inspection, the appraisal are coming up. They'll be coming up right after you sign that contract. Yeah. And the contract we closed within 30 days. We got approved. Now, just because you paid for an inspection, just because you got an appraisal, just because you gave an earnest deposit, does not mean you got the house.
No.
Remember that. Remember I said that. Now, after you are still going through a process where you're going to, everything that you gave that lender is going to be under the watchful eye of the loan processor and going to underwriters. That's one thing you got to remember. Now, understand what I'm saying right now. I want everybody to understand this. Do not run your credit card up during this process after you sign that contract. Do not take out any loans. Don't buy a car. Don't quit your job. Don't do any of that. Just do nothing.
Okay, so for you ladies that are like me, let's be specific and go into detail exactly what that means. That means no getting grocery store credit cards, not just your typical MasterCard, Visa, American Express, Discover, but no Sears, no Macy's, no Nordstrom's, none of that either.
None of it. Don't do anything. Just don't do anything. Just wait until you get till you close the house and get the keys.
Yeah, that's right.
Don't even get the clip. And another thing, do not get in. Don't say I got to get a refrigerator, stove, washer, dryer, nothing. Only way you should do that if you got a lot of cash sitting somewhere. Right. But if it's credit, anything, don't do anything. That's why it's so important to make sure your credit is good and it stays the same. Because they will monitor your credit. They will run another credit check. So they're gonna have the assessor. And the assessment is basically how much, and this is another thing I want to talk about. Assessor is just basically how much the banks want to see if the seller, let's say the seller got a house for $140,000. The lender will send an assessor there on your dime. That means the buyer has to pay for it, but the lender is just making sure that the property is worth what they're willing to pay.
Right. And also the assessor is there to let you know what the value of the property is.
Right. What it's assessed at. So they'll look at the value of other homes around there, but they're going to look in the home. They're not going to be as thorough as an inspection, but they're going to look. Yeah. Look at certain things, the outside of the roof. They're going to just take a basic look, and they're going to come out. You don't have to be there for that. They'll just kind of come in and come out, and they'll let the bank know. Now, two things can happen. They'll let the bank know that if you're paying that $140,000, hey, $140,000, good, cool. But if they say their house is worth $130,000, I will always make sure you have an assessor, something with assessor approval in a contingency where you can back out. Just in case, let me give you an example. They could say the house is worth $130,000, right? But you agreed to pay $140,000. So two things can happen. Either the seller can come down on the price to $130,000, or you're gonna have to come up with an extra $10,000, or you can back out the deal. That's so important because a lot of people nowadays the real estate market is hot. A lot of people are upping those. Yeah. They upping those prices. So you got to make sure that when you look at that, you go on Zillow is one of the best. Make sure that when you're looking at that house on Zillow and look around there and make sure that you do your own little assessment. So when you get to the part you thinking you got a house and you done paid your earnest money, you done paid for an inspection, that you don't have to back out and lose your money because you
don't always lose your money with the earnest.
Not with the earnest, but I'm talking about the inspection. You're not getting the inspection. Yeah. So you're paying $400, $300, $400, and then you have to go through a whole process all over again. It's just something that you want to make sure that that's good. So after you kind of go through all that, make sure. And another thing, the underwriting process is probably the most stressful process. Remember what I'm saying to you. They're gonna want everything but blood. Make sure before you start that process with that underwriter, you got your pay stubs, send them in. Your bank statements that's up to date, send them in. If you got anything on your credit, send in an explanation. Just send it to them. Upload it, send it, put it in a PDF. Get you an Adobe Scan app for your phone. They're gonna want it. Yeah. And when they ask for it, don't say, "Oh, I'll just wait till Monday." Send it right then and there. Because they will put yours to the bottom. The longer you take, the longer they'll take. Remember that. And that can draw out your process. So make sure you're on top of everything, y'all. Make sure you dot all your I's because they're going to make sure everything. So if you had any gaps in your employment, be upfront with it. Don't try to hide it. Your W-2s is another big thing. Right. From all your other jobs. Make sure you send any W-2. You just had one job, you'll be cool. But if you got anything on the side, any other income, Social Security, anything. Make sure you're sending that inheritance. Anything like make sure you're sending all of that straight up to them. And another thing, that just say the bank account that you're funding your closing costs, right? Make sure the bank account that you're funding your closing costs. Make sure you keep your money in it, and make sure that you don't put any big deposits in.
No big deposits.
No big deposits. No $1,000 that you can't explain. And if you get something, somebody want to give you something, say, "Hey, wait here, give it to me cash, give me a money order." Do it that way. Or if you can, if you got parents or family, if anybody want to give you $500 on a house, explain that to your lender. Make sure you're real transparent with those things because those will slow up the process and it could disqualify you. Yeah. So once you go through all that, you'll get that approval from the underwriter. Hopefully you'll get approval or you'll get a denial. But you get approval. Once you get the approval, you'll get clear to close. Then you'll just go into closing. Then you'll get the final walkthrough. You'll walk through the house. You know,
sure
you probably
everything's all right.
Yeah, you probably haven't been in the house in a month.
Yeah.
Could a month and a month and a half. Some people 2 months. Where you can walk through the house, get another look at it. You might see what's up. We walked our eyes and the grass wasn't cut, so we was able to to see things that we wouldn't see, but we didn't allow that to kind of deter us from doing what we wanted to do. So, baby girl. So after you get there, you get clear to close. When you go, there's another thing. There's so many things that we went through. When you get to they're gonna ask you to bring a cashier's check, more than likely. It may be a wire if it's a certain amount of money, but make sure you get the right from your lender. Maybe not your realtor. Your realtor will say a number. Make sure you get the right number for that cashier's check.
The right number, the right name.
Yup, the right
Everything
name.
is spelled correctly. Because if there is one thing off, they will not accept your closing costs in the form of this cashier's check.
Yeah, because you can go to a lot of these closing companies. When you go to close, it's gonna be in
Title company.
And title company is gonna be like the mediator. They're gonna run everything. They're gonna control everything. They're gonna make sure everything is good. So, y'all go back in the room. Come on, go.
I was trying to keep it from doing that.
But y'all, everything is the title company. Make sure you get your cashier check. Make sure you got everything good. That everything on your part is good. So you're gonna go to that title company. The title company is gonna give you a lot of paperwork. You're gonna keep signing your life away. You're gonna be signing so many paperwork, and more than likely you'll get the keys. We had a Friday closing, so we tried to make sure everything was right because it would have took us another day.